Welcome to the Collective Genius Podcast, the show for real estate investors who are looking to scale.
Welcome back into the Collective Genius Podcast. I am your host, Leon Barnes, and the reason that we are here with you weekly is to make sure that we have great guests in to help you grow and scale your real estate investing business, but not only grow your business, grow you as a human being, and hopefully try to bring that word balance to your life at some point in the future. I have a great guest for you today. In fact, I even forgot about this because he shaved his head right before, I think, this podcast. I forgot. I was like, man, what can I say about CJ other than he's a great member? Oh, that's right. Our 2024 CG Rookie of the Year. Please welcome in Mr. CJ Moss. Welcome in, my friend.
I love this, Leon. I feel like I'm back in my basketball days, man. Rookie of the Year. Yeah, I'm excited to be there.
We started doing Collective Genius Awards, about 4 years ago, I want to say, maybe 5 now. And there's always one member that comes into the community. You've heard me say this before. The lifeblood of our organization are the members that have been with us for a long time, and the new talent that we bring in that brings new ideas, new systems, new processes, just new energy in general. And there's always one standout, and you have been that person over the last year and a half since you have joined this group. So I'm excited for our members that listen to the pod to get to know you better, but also the people that aren't members that are coming to this podcast to learn and grow, regardless of where they are in their business. I know we have a treat for them here today. So why don't we start with this, CJ? There's a reason that you were Rookie of the Year. You bring a lot of value, but where do you bring that at? What market are you in, and what is your niche in this business?
All right, so we're in Rhode Island and Southern Massachusetts. And even though Mass isn't a huge state, it's definitely segmented. So Rhode Island's super small. I think we have like 1 million households, right? We cover the whole state, and we do Southern Mass. So basically south of Boston. If you're familiar with Mass, we go into Cape Cod. That's where we are right now. We do have expansion plans that we can get into that. But it's wholesaling, baby. It's assignments of contract all day, every day. And that's the bread and butter.
So 99.9% of what you do are assignment contracts.
Hard 99. And we refine that.
Sure.
I've done flips in the past and this and that, but it's 99. Yep.
Okay. And for those that are listening to this, there are only a few times that I've ever seen an application come in that qualified for our group from Rhode Island or the smaller areas of Massachusetts, and CJ is one of them. So when you're listening to this and you say, man, my market is small, there's not many that we're going to have a conversation with on this pod than where CJ is. So whatever limiting beliefs that you have that you can't do this, let go of those for this particular pod, because you have someone in one of the smallest states in the union represented here that's doing premier level business in this industry.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think Rhode Island is the smallest state. If we can do it here, you can do it anywhere. So, Leon, I'm excited to get into the value part of this thing. I know it's the back half of this, but my hope is that I can share a cool story. I can give everyone practical tips and tricks that they can implement right away.
Love that. So you are teasing what we're going to get to. We will definitely get to that. I want to make sure that we set you up so everyone knows why you're qualified to speak on our giveaway here for today. So CJ, coming into this pre-show, said, hey, how can we make sure that this pod gives as much value as possible? And so the first thing I want to do is make sure that everyone understands where you came from, where you're at today. And then one thing that, CJ has mastery is one of those words that I don't often use, but let's just say is a very high level dispo expert. Specifically, he mentioned a hard 99 when it comes to assignments for his business. at the end of this, the last 30 minutes roughly, he did a presentation now multiple times within the Collective Genius. He's going to do that same presentation basically here for you through this pod. It's called The Art of Elite Dispo. What he has defined here, this playbook is one that if you're someone, not only if you're just wholesaling, but also if you're a retail flipper, you can use this system, this particular playbook that he has developed in his market. You can take it, plug and play. It's that good. So before we get into all of that, let's tell people, obviously you're in Rhode Island. How did you get in this business? But before we even got into this business, what did you want to do, CJ? I know you play college basketball, but what is it that you wanted to do with your career?
All right. So I played college basketball, and then I played it up in Boston. And after that, I didn't know what I wanted to do, Leon. Like, that it was my identity. I was an athlete. I was a basketball player. It's kind of weird, like in hindsight, looking back to high school and even like prep school. Maybe I thought I would go overseas and play, but I never thought about what I wanted to do. I was just focused. So anyway, I graduated and I got a cool, unique opportunity to go overseas and coach kids in Kuwait, right? So this guy Musad, he's a Kuwaiti, loves the Celtics, went to Harvard. So he was back and forth from Kuwait to Boston, right? And he met this dude, Steve Gibbs, who runs, it's like a recruiting clinic kind of tournament thing called Hoop Mountain, right? Okay. There's Hoop Mountains all over New England. Musad came in, met Steve, said, dude, I got to bring this to Kuwait. I'm going to buy a franchise, but I need coaches. Like, there's no Kuwaiti coaches out here. Right? So Steve knew me, and Steve was like, hey, CJ, I need you out in Kuwait, man. Here's the deal. Like, at the time, this was really exciting. Dude, we'll give you $5,000 a month, tax-free salary. We'll put you up in an apartment. We'll give you a car. We'll get you a gym membership. And you go live with this other kid. I live with this kid named Brandon who played at Syracuse. He's a point guard at Syracuse. And I was like, dude, let's go. Like,
sounds perfect.
Sounds perfect. For me, it was a lot of money, and it was just like exciting. I wanted to find myself, right? Parents weren't thrilled. They didn't love Kuwait, but they reluctantly let me go. So, I landed in Kuwait. It was the best experience of my life because I'm having to figure things out. But why I got lucky for two things. Number one, I met my now wife on Tinder, who owns this company with me. So that's a different story. But the kid Brandon, right? So he was a walk-on. He was a dog at Syracuse, 5'9", point guard. And he taught me about podcasts. I had no idea about podcasts, right? So he's always listening to these things. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And he starts putting me on Joe Rogan. Then I start to research. I find BiggerPockets. And now I'm consuming real estate. I'm like, okay, real estate is really interesting. Like, I can build passive income and I can build wealth. And while I'm over there, I'm only coaching for 4 or 5 hours a day. So I'm just consuming this stuff, going to the gym, coaching, seeing Beth, whatever. And I just went deep down the real estate rabbit hole and figured out that I want to get into multifamily investing. So go ahead if you had a question.
No, I don't want to interrupt.
So long story short, I'm there for a year and a half. It's incredible. Me and my wife, I learn all this stuff. I tear my ACL playing with the guys. And by that time, I was kind of getting a little burned out.
Sure.
Because, Americans, at least what I'm used to in America, like, we're workers where I came from. We're dogs. Like, if you're going to get on the court, you better give it your all, right? Kuwaitis, I'm speaking in general terms. Hopefully no one gets offended. In general, listen, they got so much money. They got nannies. They're not working like I am. So I was starting to get burned by that, right? I come back. Beth comes back. And I say, listen, I'm not getting a job. I'm committing to this. I've always been that guy. I don't need a plan B. There's only plan A. I'm going to build this multifamily, portfolio, and we're going to live financially free forever. So that was kind of like the start. That was like 2017, 2018. This is what's happened at this point.
So 2017, 2018, you're just starting, and here we are, 2025. You're going to be sharing, this Dispo playbook that you came up with that has gotten you to, average of over $1 million of assignment fees on a monthly basis. I mean, we're only talking about a 7-year gap, 7-year time frame here. Obviously, you've been doing some things right that we've talked about this on the pod before. Former athletes just seem to bring as entrepreneurs consistently is that work ethic of I'm going to compete. I want to be as good at this as I possibly can, just like, playing on the court. But I want to go back. What I was going to interrupt you on earlier, and I waited, was there you didn't have a plan B, but outside of real estate, when you were listening to all those pods, was there ever any ideas other than real estate?
No, that was it.
Always real estate.
Once I lock in, I am
Yeah.
so locked, and there's nothing else that can drive me.
That's interesting. Almost everyone that's been on the pod that's told their story about jumping into real estate, whether they were in corporate before and then they jumped into real estate, or worked for somebody else and then jumped into real estate. It's always been no. Once I knew that real estate was the thing, and they just locked and loaded. And obviously, in a 7-year time frame here, you've gotten to where we're having this conversation with you. Being I don't know the statistics of Rhode Island, but I'm guessing you're the largest investor in Rhode Island and in your areas. I mean, so obviously you've done some things right here. When you start out, though, obviously do you have a mentor? Do you just listen to the pods and all of a sudden it was perfect and you were off and running?
I listened to the pods. And I wasn't wholesaling at all. I was buying small multis, so like 2 to 3 units. And again, Leon, I'm a figure it out guy. So I'm like, okay, I don't have a lot of cash. Like at the time, I think I had 105 grand. I'd saved 55, and I had a relative who passed who left me 50. So this is what I had. I had no job, right? I teamed up with a bunch of my buddies. I house hacked the 2-fam.
Okay.
One of my buddies house hacked a 3-fam. Another one house hacked a 2-fam. And we ended up kind of like putting it all in the same LLC and slowly started buying more of those properties. Ultimately, we got to maybe like 40 to 50 doors, I think. And to make the numbers really work, we had to rent it by the room to college kids. Mm-hmm. So we had Providence College, right? I got all these buildings next to PC. I got all these buildings next to Johnson & Wales. And where I'm from, have you ever heard of a double parlor? You know what a double parlor is?
I don't think I mean, it sounds like something I can figure out, but go ahead and tell me.
So we got these big multis, right? A double parlor is you have a like a living room, dining room kinda, and then boom, another living room attached to it, right? That's why they call it a double parlor with a little tiny separator.
Okay.
So what we did to make the numbers right, you put a wall up, boom, that's another bedroom. And we're packing kids into those things, renting by the room to make these figures work.
No.
And I managed everything. My buddy had a good job. I think he was going to U Chicago getting his MBA. He played with me at Tufts. And I managed him until we had that many units and that many kids. And I was like tearing my hair out. I was making no money, running around furnishing these rooms, getting these kids. They leave. I get new ones. And I said, you know what? I'd heard about wholesaling. I said, I got to get into this thing to make some like quick cash to keep buying these multis and to live. I'm living in annex. I'm living in basements, the worst areas of Providence. And that's when I found wholesaling. And to come back to your question about a mentor, he wasn't my mentor at the time, but Cody Hoffheim, really like one of the founders with Tom Kroll of Wholesaling Inc. I bought that course. I learned how to send direct mail. And that's where I started in 2019.
Got it. Okay. So I knew that you don't go from, where you were coming back from Kuwait to where you are today without some type of mentorship. But obviously you were figuring things out on your own, and you realized that, my goodness, I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm living in basements. I got to do some or attics. I got to figure out something else. So you start to wholesale. You developed this playbook after trial and error. Obviously 2019 is when you really start assigning. Out of the gates, were you getting good assignment fees or just barely getting by?
No, it was okay. My wife originally, when she moved from Kuwait, now she's not a citizen, So she was on a 90-day visa. She had to get a job as an au pair, a nanny, living with a family like an hour away from where we lived, right? So what we did is just said, listen, I think we're really committed. Let's get married. We probably got married a little prematurely, but to lock her into the country. And then she jumped in with me. And to get to your question about fees, it took us probably 5 or 6 months to really get our first few deals. Like, we were in the red, Leon. We were in the red, and it was discouraging. She knew so little about wholesaling. I wrote her a check out of my personal savings account one day for like $1,700, and I was like, hey, we got this fee. She didn't even know about it. I just did it to like try to keep her not being too discouraged. And then we started trickling in. So like 14 grand, 17 grand. I mean, I remember we're living in my grandparents' house. They just moved to an assisted living facility. They were like, you guys can take over our house, right? We get an offer on a deal. It was like for 13 grand. And it was, even though to today, Leon, we've gotten fees way bigger than that. I was like, oh my God, this works.
Right.
And that first year, 2019, I think we probably made $140, $150, but it was like proof of concept. And I was like, babe, this works. We're going to turn this thing up.
We're all in. We're all in at this point. And so about 1.5 years, 2 years ago now, you find out about communities like ours. When did you hear about Collective Genius, and what did you think when you first heard about it?
I think I heard about you guys on various podcasts, and it was a group, where you have thresholds. And I think those thresholds are really good because competitive people like myself, I'm like, okay, I want to get into this group. Like, this is the best group of wholesalers around. Like, what am I going to do? Okay, cool. It's $2 million base, and these are all the, or whatever it is. And I heard about you. I did a lot of research. And Leon, one reason why I've been successful is because I always try to learn from people who are ahead of me and surround myself by people who know more than me, right? Listen, if I can do what that dude does and then do way more of it, it's going to work because it works for them.
Yep.
Right? And that's how I found your group. I remember I jumped on a call with you. We were traveling. I remember the phone call, like vividly. I remember the phone call. I was in the car traveling somewhere. And when I got accepted, I felt like it was like accepted. Like, you passed the test, CJ, you're in. Welcome to the squad.
Yes. And, that, again, all of this that you're just mentioning sounds a lot like, sports, right? You knew that you needed to get accepted or make the team. You made the team, and you realized that I'm a freshman and there are seniors and juniors on this squad that I can learn from. And so to put a bow on that analogy and that comparison there, like, this is like, success leaves clues. We say that, I think, on every single pod, that every successful person in this group, they're not a unicorn, right? They're whether they're building new construction, doing commercial, wholesaling, multifamily, land flippers, land entitlement, whatever they're doing, there's someone in the room that is having success at it, and they put their pants on the same way that you and I do. And if people will just look at that as an opportunity, it doesn't mean our community. Maybe you're just starting out, and you're trying to get to a consistent couple deals a month. Well, get around someone that's doing what you want to do. That's the first step that I would be taking if I am trying to get from, let's say, $1 million to $2 million. Well, I need to be around people that are doing $2 million a year. If I'm at 2, I want to get to 4. I need to be around people that are 4. I also know that you're competitive because every one of those tiers, if we had 4 more tiers above CEO, I know you would say, that's my goal, right? I want to be above the CEO group, but I do know that that's something that is on your radar. And based upon the way you're tracking, that won't be long before you're at our highest level. So let's dive into this. You did a presentation in which you walked out with a belt, specifically on Dispo. And I want to, again, go back to let everyone know that this is going to be Dispo specific for assignments, and that is CJ's exit strategy. That said, if you're listening to this pod right now and you're saying, well, I'm not a wholesaler, do not shut this off. continue to listen to this playbook, because this playbook can be for retail flippers. This can be for land flippers. This can be utilized for any way of disposing of a property. The disposition side that he does just happens to be for assignments. So do not turn this off just because you think, I don't want to listen to someone that's just doing assignments. Because he does, in his playbook, some of these deals he has to take down. I think the biggest thing that I've learned from this, CJ, is the playbook is the playbook, right? It has its results. But I think for me, the biggest thing I took from this presentation every time I've watched it is that you are always trying to establish trust first and foremost, and you are disclosing. Like you want to make sure that people understand what your process is. So let's start with that. The presentation was called the art of Elite Dispo, the playbook for maximizing assignment profits. You clearly have had some time to establish this playbook. Where did this all start? Were you in CG already? You say, I got to establish a process for this, or you already had this process coming in?
No, I've had this process coming in. I learned it from Cody, from afar. I learned it. And to set the baseline of what that process is, we'll go into the details.
Sure.
Essentially what we're doing is we're holding open houses on all of our deals, right? We're driving buyers there. We're driving competition. The days of, I find a deal and I'm going to go give it to this investor for a fee. Like, hey, Leanne, do you want this deal for 20 grand? We work way too hard to get these deals, and you're not maximizing it, especially if you're going to run a scalable business. When you run a scalable business with employees and marketing and overhead, you have to squeeze every bit of that lemon juice out of the lemon. And ultimately, this allows you to do that is holding the open houses, doing highest and best, negotiating the price, getting that max assignment fee.
So the first step in the playbook is not necessarily holding open houses. It's, I think from what I gathered, is your success to big fees is trust and transparency. Will you go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, it's trust and transparency with the seller, right? So our HBSs, we call them HBS, our home buying specialists. They're trained when they sit in the seller's living room, because we're belly to belly, right? I want trust. I want empathy. I want rapport. I also want detachment. It's critical. Like, when my HBS is walking to this house, I want them to say to themselves, I don't need this deal. I don't need this deal, and the seller doesn't need me. I'm going to go in with serving, right? That's my mentality. I'm going to serve this seller to the best of my ability. And if it's a good fit, great. And if it's not, then it's not, right? And they walk in with that confidence, and the seller can feel that energy. So when it comes to contract time, let's say they agree on a price and it works, right? Critical. We are not the buyers of this property, all right? And this is all in our P&S, right? We're not the buyers. We're going to assign this contract. And this is what an assignment means. We're going to assign this to an investor. Essentially, we're going to sell it to an investor for profit, right? So we're not the end buyer. To do so, we need to get about 20 buyers. We say an army of people here one time for a walkthrough, right? We talk them through that so they know what's going to happen. Because if they don't know what's going to happen and you lie to them because you're scared about their response and you have a limiting belief, they're going to find out. They're going to be mad. They're going to freak out. They're going to shut down the open house. And by the way, I've learned this through experience, right? I've learned this through failure, through sellers being upset, through challenging open houses. So now we go in like a glass box. This is our service. If you like that service, we'll sign the dotted line. And if you don't like that service, that's no problem. We'll refer you to a realtor or a direct buyer. So it's really, it's all about transparency, step one with the seller.
All right. So step one, serve first, transparency, establishing your trust with the buyer. The seller. How often, because people will listen to this and say, I tell them all of those things, the limiting belief that you talked about. How often are they saying, I'm not comfortable with that?
Never, never not comfortable. Some might say, you know, can you not market it on social media because I'm a bit embarrassed about my house? They might say, is there any way to cap the buyers? Like, is there any way you could only do maybe 5 buyers or 10 buyers? Um, and this is I'm talking about a small percentage. The vast majority are like, okay, that's great. Do I get my price and do we still close on my close date? Are there all the terms still there? Yes, great. But the other ones, there might be a little bit of negotiation.
So a little bit of negotiation on those terms, still doing what you normally do within your playbook. It just may be 5 instead of 20. And then those that are just not comfortable with that, how often are you having, like, because you said a hard 99 before, I'm guessing that 1% are the ones that they may not be comfortable. You may have to take a deal down in order to market it after the fact because they're not comfortable with that playbook.
Leon, I think because we've gotten so transparent recently, it doesn't happen anymore.
Love to hear
Like,
that.
I said hard 99 because like every once in a while we'll do an ovation, but it just, I can't remember the last time I bought a house. I don't buy houses anymore. I just don't do it.
Well, obviously your system is working for you. I put that out there because some people may start this and may not be where you're at today. 6 months ago, maybe 12 months ago, that may have been something where you had to novate more, or you had to take a few deals down. If you have to do that out of the gates, I'm guessing that would be okay based upon this particular playbook that you've established.
Yeah, of course, because it's going to be clunky.
Yes.
If you don't do this already, you're going to be nervous. You're not going to be confident. You're going to fumble. You're going to scramble, and you're going to have to take some deals down, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
But once you do become really confident, and again, it's like you're number one, you're always pulling away from the seller, and number two, one thing that we find really helpful with our guys is we record everything. Like we have these little, these like are they called plauds?
Are you talking about the wristbands that record?
There's wristbands, there's cards, they're all the same thing, right? So we'll go in, we'll tell them that we're recording, and we record the whole P&S signing, make sure our HBSs did everything properly, set all the right expectations, and checked with the seller. Like, we'll check like 3 or 4 times. Hey, before you sign this, there's no going back. Like, this is what we offer, right? There's no going back. Are you 100% sure on this? But that's developed over time, failing forward.
That's what I was trying to get across, is that this isn't going to be perfect out of the gates. You're going to have to, until you get this right, there are going to be some deals that you may have to take down or novate or do some different things with. But again, the art of Elite Dispo isn't the overnight microwave maximize assignment fees playbook. It takes time to develop all these things, no different than taking time to develop as an athlete. All right, so we're now serving first. We're transparent. We are building that true trust and making sure that a seller never comes back and says, well, I didn't see that. They don't need to. You've covered things so many times, and you're confident in your abilities that you're okay with making sure that your people are getting that across, that they're very transparent with the process. Now, we've got this under contract. What's step 2?
So step 2 is we're gonna build out the dispo calendar, right? Because it's important how you space these things. So if you're not getting a ton of these deals, I would stick it on a Saturday, because Saturdays are when you're probably gonna have most of your buyers are gonna be free. At this point for us, what we do is we do 2 deals on a Tuesday, 2 deals on a Thursday, 2 deals on a Saturday. And we have 2 dispo managers. They each get a deal one of those days, right? And you have to be strategic. You don't want your buyers to compete with themselves. So, Leon, what town are you in right now?
I'm in Tampa.
You're in Tampa. I'm not showing Tampa's probably pretty big, but I'm not showing 2 deals in Tampa next to each other, both on a Tuesday.
Right.
Because you're diluting your buyer pool. The goal is you're going to get 20 plus of these buyers at one open house, right? So we'll create the schedule, and then we'll send the deals out, not all at once, because again, I don't want my buyers who might be interested in the Tuesday deal getting distracted by a Saturday deal. We send the deals out, just the first deals on Tuesday, and then each of those reps, they're responsible for making at least 40 outbound calls. We use Investor Base. and they'll call the buyers that we already know really well, right? So we market it, we text blast it, we have all these different strategies of getting it out. But the real meat and potatoes is actually just getting on the phone and saying, hey, Leon, dude, you're one of our best buyers in Tampa. I have a deal for you, man. This is 123 Main Street. I know you'd love it. I saw you flipped one down the road. But not just like, hey, are you interested? We learned that if we just say that, sometimes, Leon, you might be uncomfortable saying, yeah, I'm interested. I'll probably go, right? You might be uncomfortable saying, CJ, I'm not interested in that one. Boom, like hard no. So what was happening is we were having like 25 like confirmed, 15 attended.
Sure.
25 confirmed, 14 attended. So now we take a harder stance of like, hey, Leon, dude, I need confirmation. Are you in? Are you out? And if you're out, don't sweat it, man. So we lock it in, and that difference shrinks dramatically.
So this goes back to what I mentioned before. So as you're listening to this, he's talking about his process to assign these contracts. You take out the word assignment and you put this into retail. You're a flipper and you're looking at deals, days on the market going up. Because this is something that we're facing in 2025. Days on the market for all properties, specifically those that are listed properties, have gone up in almost every market. CJ's actually selling the deals. Like his team is calling 40 people to get them just to the open house, correct?
Minimum.
Okay? Minimum 40. Now, these are all people that they have information from investor base that they know are investors that want to buy properties to either turn them into rentals or flip them themselves. So he's calling a minimum of 40. When I hear people say, and CJ, you can speak to this as well. When I hear people say, we're marketing the property or we're making an effort to sell the property, putting a sign in the yard, putting a deal on the MLS, you're listing a property so someone could potentially see it, but you're not making an effort to actually market the property. This is an actual effort, a playbook to make sure that you're maximizing profits. So a minimum of 40 to get them to the open house. You knew that you had some people that were saying yes, but weren't showing up. You've solved for that now. You're finding issues and you're solving for them. Now that we have them at the open house, what does that look like?
So, they come to the open house. We don't allow kids anymore. We've had some challenges with kids. Listen, just come yourself, bring your contractor, whatever it is, bring your lender, that's fine. And it's an hour walkthrough. We have 2 super charismatic, driven dispo reps. They're both amazing, Leon. I am so lucky I can't even tell you how lucky I am to have these reps. They're better than I am at this job. And they meet the potential investors, they're networking, talking to them, trying to build rapport, remembering their names, remembering important things so you actually feel like we care about you, because we do, right? Leon comes in, I'm messing around with him about basketball or whatever, right? Take as much time as you need at the house. You got an hour. Take videos, take photos, bring your lender through, whatever, it doesn't matter. So you come for an hour. Then we're gonna send everyone an offer link, because all the offers have to be done through our platform on Salesforce, and it's highest and best due the next day by 12. Now the key here, I'll take a step back, is the way that we price our properties. So we take the ARV times either 0.7 or 0.75, depending on the desirability of the property in the area, minus the rehab, and that's what we send it out at. Every time. It doesn't matter what we have it at. It doesn't matter if we have it for $5,000 higher than that number or $80,000 lower than that number. We send it out there because we know that number is going to drive competition, right? And I think that's a limiting belief with a lot of wholesalers. They think, well, if I send it out at the number that I have it at, what if I don't get $20,000 more? Mm-hmm. You could be putting people off. It's about driving competition, right? So they come, they get the offer link, highest and best due by the next day at 12. They get a reminder text the next day. Because Leon, you said it, we're selling this thing. Dude, I'm not sitting back and praying that offers are coming in. I'm driving offers.
That's right.
All the offers come in by 12 the following day. Then it's negotiation time, right? So we'll send a follow-up text to all the offers. let's say the highest offer is 250. We'll say, hey guys, right now highest offer is just over 250. We want to give everyone an opportunity to resubmit if you have any more room. Text will trickle in with higher offers, and then my team is on the phone. And they're saying, hey, Leon, dude, you're at 257. I got one at 265. What do I have to do to get you up? I think that might get it done. You come up to 270. All right, I'm calling Jane. Jane, this guy Leon, he's a great buyer. This guy just came up to 270. And we're trying to work him, squeeze all that lemon juice out, and then finally you lock it in when everyone else falls off.
You're selling the deal.
You're selling the deal. And Leon, here's one more thing for you. I was so impressed by this. My dispo, I got 2 dispo reps, Gian and Carolyn. Carolyn just graduated from Penn State this year. She's been an intern with us for 3 summers. We had a deal in a very rural area, not a desirable area. So I went into her office yesterday to check on her. I said, hey, how are we doing on Westerly? And she said, not good, CJ. I think we had like 9 confirmed. I was like, ugh, all right, how are we going to get that 20? She said, I've made 90 calls, right? The baseline is 40. She made 90 calls. That's the standard my dispo team has. She'll sell that deal, but they come with that energy to actually sell these things for max price.
So I'm hearing a couple of different things here that I don't want to gloss over, because I know I can hear people. If this was a call-in show, I know what their question would be right now. Which, by the way, probably should do in the future. If I were a caller right now, I would say, knowing the challenges that most entrepreneurs have, whether it's real estate or whatever, it's usually people, right? And you have glossed, multiple times now said how much you love your dispo, how lucky you are to have your dispo people. So the caller would call in and say, where'd you find them? How'd you develop them? Because you seem to have 2 people, and I know that you are very smart and have a system for finding the right people and the profiles. So give a little bit more insight. You obviously have found some really good people and you've developed them. That's what most people would want to know right now. You got a great playbook, but you also have great people to run the plays.
Yeah, that's a great question. You're going to fail a lot. You're going to hire a lot of the wrong people because you have no idea what you're doing. And that's what happened to me. Entrepreneurship is an evolution. When I'm 33 right now. When I'm 65, I'll probably look back and say, dude, when I was 33, I knew nothing. I can't believe I achieved that, right? So I learned who not to hire. We really only hire, we use predictive index, we really like it. You really got to be a captain and maverick for this job. I'll take persuaders. I might take promoters. Right now we have a captain and a maverick because I like their dominance. Like they're social enough. They're so driven. They're social enough to build rapport, but they're dominant enough to be like, no, I'm asking that uncomfortable question. When I've gone back to you, Leon, 4 times asking you to get your offer up, I'll go back one more time because I want that, as opposed to being like, I wonder how Leon feels right now. None of that. So, I guess I think another part of it too is you attract people. I really believe that. I think that you attract people. If you're building something special, if they can feel that, they want to be around great leaders. Mm-hmm. And I got a lot of room to grow. I'm not saying I'm the best, but I think I've attracted some great people. We have incredible training programs here. And we even do stuff at the executive level where we use recruiters. I'll pay premium for a recruiter to hire me a COO instead of having to fumble forward and do that myself.
Well, again, going back to, you either are learning from those that have done what you're trying to accomplish, or you're hiring professionals to bring in what you're looking for specifically. You're not trying to, at this phase of your business, you're shortcutting it. You're understanding that there's better ways and easier ways to do this. I agree with everything that you said there. You'll look back at this in 10 years and go, man, I thought I had it all figured out and we were doing very well. And at the time that worked. And now I'm so much better today. But what I will say is this: some of the reasons you're attracting some of that talent has everything to do with talent wants to be led. Future leaders want to be led by people that have big goals. And you've clearly set big goals, and you've given them playbooks to accomplish their goals, short-term and long-term. A lot of times people will say, well, I hired this really good person and he left me. A lot of times it's because they don't have a process to follow on a daily basis to a path to success. You've clearly done that with this defined process for your dispo agents. There are some pitfalls here that we haven't talked about. It's not all rainbows, obviously. So go back to the open house. I know you told a couple different stories about some of the pitfalls that come with open houses that you learned some valuable lessons to. Will you share those with the listeners here? Because there was one specifically where there was a lawsuit involved. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that this isn't perfect and there's evolutions to this and there's possibilities for issues to arise.
Yeah. You're gonna have challenges. I mean, think about it. Let's say you do 300 deals a year. 1% go wrong. You're gonna have 3 to 4 pretty rough open houses. Mm-hmm. So I think the one that you're alluding to, Leon, is we had this one at a super distressed property. Like it might have even been a tear down. So we have our buyers walk through, and my dispo rep at the time, who's a different one, we always walk the property beforehand, right? Our dispo rep gets there like 45, 30 minutes early, walks it, gets a lay of the land, and he knew that the landing, right, a 3x3 landing leading into the basement was like super soft. So normally he's outside, he's actually inside, and as people are going down to the basement, he's saying, hey, don't step on the landing. It's super soft. Just step over the landing, right? We had this one investor, and it's worth noting this for the story, severely obese, right? Very, very heavy girl. And she's walking through with her phone, recording it. Okay, I'm at Moss Home Solutions open house. I want to do Main Street. She's not really focusing. She's not paying attention. Chris tells her, watch the landing. She steps right into the landing and like, poof, like a shoot, right? Goes straight through, 6 feet plus down, hits the concrete in the basement, right? Everyone freaks out. Chris runs down, investors run down, scoop her up. And I think she was probably just more embarrassed than anything else. She wasn't injured, but she dusted herself off and she left. Then we hear later she's in the hospital. Then we get a letter from her attorney, saying that she's suing us and looking for money. And it was resolved, but that's one story. I mean, if I went into the Rolodex of all these things, we have lots of them, and they're going to happen. It's just how you react to them and then how you fix it moving forward so that will never happen again.
So let's talk about that. In this particular instance, how did you fix it? Because clearly there's liability there. So, but you did do something to close that gap.
Yeah. So now we sign a conflict waiver, and you also have to indemnify the seller because it's the seller's property. Mm-hmm. It's not you as the wholesaler, right? They're going after the seller and you don't want that. So sign a conflict waiver that's ironclad, and that's been the solution for that problem.
Yeah, so I bring that up because, we're giving a playbook to maximize profits, but there also, obviously, there's liabilities that come with that. And, not all of them are you going to know right out of the gates, but there are some, especially when you're dealing with someone else's property that you have under contract to sell, but it's still not your property. There's some liabilities that come with that, especially from the insurance side, that you need to make sure, because you want to talk about losing credibility in your marketplace pretty quickly. Is you have a homeowner that gets sued that what was just trying to move the property, right? So it's the reverse of what they were actually looking to accomplish. They're trying to sell the property, not get sued.
Exactly. Go ahead. Sorry.
Any other pitfalls like that that lessons that you've learned that are simple like that one, where you can quickly close that loop of liability?
Not even liability, but Leon, I had one today pop up, and it's not a massive one, but it's worth noting because I'm this far into it, right? And we got one of our HBSs, his name is Justin. We made him like the lead HBS. He's so good, and he set such clear expectations. He records everything. What we don't do is we tell ourselves, hey, we're going to market this property. we'll text it out to all of our buyers. We'll have an army of people there, et cetera, right? But we never give the details on how we market it. And they said, okay, that's fine. That's totally fine. Now, this seller's a realtor, right? Every once in a while, you hit a realtor who's willing to sell wholesale. And there's something kind of funky going on there. So we market it. We put it on all the Facebook groups that we normally do. And he starts getting calls from realtors. So he calls us. He says, whoa. I didn't know you were going to market it on Facebook. I want out of the deal. This is like firefighter 101 this morning, right? What's the learning lesson? I sit down with my COO right now, literally before this, and I said, okay, now we need to beef up our expectation sheet. We actually have to disclose every form of marketing and have them initial next to every form saying that's okay. And if they say, you know what, I'm not comfortable with Facebook, we don't do it on Facebook. So that's just a learning lesson. Like you always have to, you're going to get hit in the mouth. And then you say, how do I not get hit in the mouth again? And you put that in and move forward.
Yeah, at these times, you don't know what you don't know until it becomes a potential issue, and then you solve for that. It's a very systematic approach here, CJ, to everything that you've done. So to recap here, serve first with transparency. That's first step when you're going in and meeting with the seller to get it under contract. You build out. The second step was the build out. I just lost my handwriting is terrible, CJ. True transparency to you, and then getting the deal under contract. Obviously, you're building out the dispo process, and then you're going to open house. What am I missing in between there or at the end?
No, you're great. I mean, at the end, you have to set buyer expectations. Just like you set seller expectations, you have to set buyer expectations, right? So you have to sign this assignment before 5 p.m. today, or else it gets pulled back automatically. You have to submit a $10,000 non-refundable deposit, because if you don't do that, you're not serious. We won't negotiate the $5,000. You got to do $10,000. You got to close on time. If you don't, it's a $500 per day late fee. And you got to pay the closing costs. And by the way, here are the closing costs. So you know all that stuff. And then we lock it in and close it. But we have a little bit of a different strategy that we've developed since my 2 presentations.
Okay.
This is how incredible the CG community is, right? So 2 things. Brad Chandler, Express Home Buyers, Virginia, he came up maybe like 2 months ago to shadow us and to see what our dispo process was like. So him, his daughter, and his dispo rep came up. They spent the whole day with us. And he said, CJ, have you ever considered putting houses on the MLS, that are vacant? Not novating them, but assigning them on the MLS. Just kind of planted a seed, and I was like, okay, let me think about that a little bit. We've never done that before. And then I referred, do you know a guy named Connor Walsh?
I know the name.
Okay, so Connor, I mentor Connor, right? And he's in Quincy, Mass. And I said, dude, you gotta join CG Select. And he joined CG this year.
Okay.
He learned the MLS strategy from someone in CG, started doing it, brought it to me, and I was like, dude, we gotta start doing this on vacants. Because even though we get huge fees, there are all these buyers out there that can pay cash who are not on our buyers list, who don't know we exist. Right? Maybe they speak a different language. So we've started doing that recently on vacant properties. We tell the seller, hey, we're going to market this on the MLS. We put it on the MLS. We still do all the marketing. We still do all the cold calling. We still do all that stuff. And that's really, really, really helped us out.
Shout out to Brad, man. That's he came up to you to shadow you and gave you something while he is there learning from you. Like that's Brad has been on the pod, one of the most positive people I've ever met in my life. I can give you, 11 years ago now, when I joined CG, Brad was at Express Home Buyers in DC, was one of the only people in the room that did television commercial. Now we're talking 11 years ago, before everyone was doing television in real estate investing, especially those that are our premier level and up typically. And I remember Brad watching our spot and going, that spot's great. I even had this conversation with him on the pod. I don't even know if he remembered. 11 years ago, he says to me, he goes, you know what you're missing? He goes, it's a great spot, but you're missing one thing that'll make a massive difference for you. And it was just a simple, you're missing a jingle. He goes, the jingle keeps people, like you will have people, you'll be in the grocery store line and people will sing your jingle to you when they see your polo that you're wearing with your brand on your shirt. And he was right. Within like 6 months of adding a jingle, we had people that were singing in the grocery store, and it just helped people remember, especially, in our business, people don't necessarily know who we are until they absolutely need us because they're in a distressed situation or they inherit a house, what have you, right? So I love that, hearing that, because we are a big community on people learning from each other, going and doing office visits. And it might be the first story I've heard in a long time where someone came to an office visit and actually helped you with to continue to make the strategy better.
Yeah, and also like Brad. Brad's from what I heard, he's changed a little bit over the past few years. I didn't know Brad 10 years ago, but
Yes.
so much on mindset and limiting beliefs and like why we act the way we act.
Sure.
So I asked him before we came up. I said, we do a Monday, Thursday morning meeting with the whole team every day. Can you do a facilitation? Can you do an hour-long facilitation on all that? Nothing real estate related. And he did it, and the team, man, they loved it. It was awesome.
Love hearing that. I'll have to make sure that I make a note of that, because you have any pictures of that? Love to see that.
We got one. There's a big Italian spot in Providence called Federal Hill, and he went out with my Dispo guy. So I'll send that over.
Yeah, shoot me a picture of that. Love to share that with the group. Anything else I'm missing here before we get into all the numbers and what that looks like when you actually adhere to this playbook?
I think trust the process is key. If it's a new process for you, it's going to be clunky, and it might take you a couple of years to refine it. But it's an investment in your company's future, and I'm bullish on how important it is because I know how important it is to my company. Like the fact that we can make these really, really large fees in a small state with not crazy priced properties. I mean, it's allowed us to grow. So trust it. Just like trip your way forward, and then reach out to me if you have questions and you need my help.
Love that. So to break down the results of this. So again, as we started this pod, we talked about, CJ's in a very small state, very small market. There's a lot of limiting beliefs when people have these type of processes. Well, I can't use that for my flip process. I can't use that for my assignment process because I'm in XYZ market, right? I disagree with that. I think that if you look at anyone that's successful, no matter what market, they always have clearly defined processes, and they're always tweaking those processes to make them better. You heard on this pod that he's never enlisted anything, but now is because of an idea that he got from another member. So there's iterations of this and continue to tweak it and make it better. Version 1.0, version 2.0, version 3.0. There's a reason why programs continue to upgrade, phones upgrade, what have you. We're always going to upgrade those things. But, if I look at the national average of assignment fees from just our group and all of the tiers within the group, you're pushing let's call it 3 times the national average on assignments in a market that is not, known as, a hotbed for real estate nationwide. There's a reason that that number is that number. You have a clearly defined process, and you have the right people in the seats. I do not want to take away. He has a clearly defined process that he continues to make better. And one additional thing, he has absolute studs in the spots to make sure that the process works. Earlier, to recap, his minimum is 40 calls on these properties. And you said earlier you had a young lady that made 90 calls on her own. You didn't have to tell her to do that, right?
No. And that's not unique. That's just one deal. That's truly not unique.
Yes. I mean, so clearly defined process with the right butts and the right seats can get you to a point where your goal was at one point $1 million a month, and to my knowledge, for this year, you have surpassed that on the average every single month after I think the first few months of the year. Correct?
Yeah, God, I'm actually pulling this up because I want to give you legit, real, no nonsense numbers here. Um, our assigned rev for the past 5 months, it's not always over mil. We got 905, we got 1.2 million, 908, 987, 1.18 million. Right now, we're like always between that 9 mil and 1.2, or sorry, not 9 mil, 900 grand and 1.2 mil.
So the average of these, yes.
No drop off. That's what we're looking like.
Amazing, man. If people want to, reach out to you, what's the best way for them to find? We're going to give all of these details, the entire Dispo playbook. We're going to put that together for you, CJ. You don't have to do that. It'll be a part of this podcast. We'll make it available for everyone. But if they do want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to follow and find you?
Well, you can follow us on just Moss Home Solutions, MOSS Home Solutions. That's Instagram. My wife runs that, and she gets so much contact, she probably won't pass it to me. So don't follow us for sure, but don't try to get me through there. Yeah. I would say email me. Email me at cj@mosshomesolutions.com if you need anything, and we can set up a call, and I'm happy to help you.
I appreciate that. Last thing here, what are you most excited about in life and in business right now?
I'm most excited about, I would say, being really dialed in on wealth building, because, what I found over these 7 years is it's really exciting to get big fees and make a lot of money. But at some point it wears off. And, I'm having a daughter. My first daughter is being born in December. So I'm pretty pumped about that.
You should be.
But I'm dialing in now. I'm like, okay, cool. Now we're going to build some serious wealth, and just being super strategic about that while building the company. Leon, I'm hiring it. We're going to start a title company. I'm hiring an in-house attorney. We're growing. I feel a little bad for Adam Devine. We're moving into Connecticut, baby. Scaling this thing. So I'm grateful for a lot. I have a lot of good things in my life right now.
Yeah, love that. For those that are listening to this, that are growing their business, whether they wholesale, hotel, novate, fix and flip, a combination of all, and they're looking at building wealth, they're probably interested in hearing what you have to say to this. What's outside of the title company and growing into new markets, what's the next phase of wealth building? Are you looking at different types of asset class? What are you looking at?
No, so I'm opening up a self-directed Roth, because you can do assignments in that. One thing I'm actually doing, Leon, is I'm selling off all my multifamilies that are not great, right? So we accumulated like 200 doors, right? I'm selling all those multifamilies that are not great. And there's a strategy here. And for anyone who says, because there's going to be tons of people who say, like, that doesn't exist. How does that work, right? You can 1031 exchange the equity into a business trust, right? It doesn't need to go into a like-kind property. You can do it into a business trust. So I'm in the process of doing that. And then I'm going to take that trust, and I'm going to use that trust to start actually lending out capital to my buyers, to other people that I know, and really start that private lending business where I can start getting 12-2, 13-3, whatever it is, and see that tangible cash flow without crazy New England old buildings and tenants.
Well, and you have plenty of buyers on the other side. This gives your Dispo agents another opportunity to say, for those that say, hey, I'm low on funds right now, I can't do that deal. Well, we might be able to assist you. It's one piece of the business taking care of another objection potentially and making money at the same time. So you keep everything in house. Absolutely love it, CJ. You're a breath of fresh air, my friend. And like I mentioned to you before, the lifeblood of this organization is bringing in new talent that sees things a little bit differently, but also can give value and receive value. You're always open to people like the Brad Chandlers. You mentioned Phil Green during your presentation. It seems like that for every person I hear that you have influenced, others have had an influence on you. One in particular I want to share with you. I don't know if you are aware of this. I think I may have shared it with you, but this is the power of the collective genius. Joseph Back and Eric Martin did a presentation recently on quality over quantity. And they're doing a ton of deals in 2024. They watch your first presentation on Dispo, and they're like, man, we're in markets like Louisville and Mississippi and Kentucky and Cincinnati. We're in some larger mid-sized markets. And they're like, what? Hold on. He's doubling or tripling our assignment fees. Why are we not focused on that? So I know they did a presentation on how your presentation influenced them to work on more quality versus quantity. So I think I mentioned that to you before, but it is, the lifeblood of this organization is when you have new members come in and not necessarily challenge other people, but when people hear what you're doing at a high level, it makes them challenge what they're currently doing to be better.
Absolutely. And one last thing I'll say, Leon.
Yeah.
Is CG is great. Like when I came in, you kind of hit me right in the ego, man, on that phone call, because you looked at my stuff and you're like, okay, CJ, you're probably like, in the 40, like 50th percentile, like you'll have some people above you and below you. I was like, ooh, all right, like, right. You want to learn from people up. Like when I enter CEO, when that happens, I'll be excited to learn from people that are well ahead of me.
Yeah.
But the new people, the people who are a little bit below you or whatever, sometimes they have the best new systems, strategies, ideas. I'm like, dude, I got to be around those people running small wholesale operations so we can adopt what they do as well.
You can learn from everyone. This community is proof of that. If you check your ego at the door, as we often say, first thing that we always say, when we start our meetings, if you check your ego at the door, there's someone in that room. Everyone in that room can teach you something, and you can learn at some part of life and or business. And you have come in knowing that you can learn from others and teach others as well. So much appreciated for the time. I know I've taken plenty of it here today. Again, give that email one more time if people want to reach out to you, and we'll get you out of here.
Yep, it's just CJ, 2 letters, at mosshomesolutions.com.
CJ, thank you as always for your time. Tons of value here. I always enjoy the conversations and look forward to the next one.
Awesome. Thank you, Leon.
Thank you, my friend. All right, if you'd love to be in a room with guys like CJ Moss or any of our other Collective Genius members that we've mentioned here on the pod, the easiest way to do that is check out our website at explorecg.com. There you'll find our application. You'll find all the information of the tiers. If you're a full-time real estate investor, more than likely we have a tier that's available for you. You can check that out at explorecg.com. That is all for today's podcast. Tons of resources will be available for you in the show notes, but also documents, links, those type of things. We'll get those to you. That is it for today. We'll see you on the next Collective Genius podcast.
New episodes every week. To learn more, visit explorecg.com, where real estate investors come to scale.